Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we?
All right, so today's upload, subscriber submitted experience. I got an email yesterday morning, and through the few years that I've had the channel, we're coming up on 7 years now, and I have had about a handful of people reach out to me using one of those Proton emails, and I'm usually skeptical about them. I don't trust them. I don't know why. I just it's something that they just don't feel. I don't feel comfortable with opening them, or really going in a deep dive on them. A few people that I've had reach out, one being the Pennsylvania, Delaware fisherman who had that absolutely horrific experience. This gentleman that I'm going to share his experiences with you guys right now is a longtime subscriber of the channel. A few others. Actually was subscribed to a lot of other channels, and then through the years he just kind of dwindled down. And longtime lurker, listens to every live stream that I do, and he actually has never commented. He joked a little bit about some of the things that I say in the last couple of weeks on the live streams. So I can't really get too deep into this guy's physical region of where he lives, because it would be that easy to identify his location. And one, he does not want the government to ever know that he shared this. And I said, hey, bottom line is if they ever, are monitoring any kind of channel, anyone's channel, they will find out who you are, unfortunately. His biggest thing is he doesn't want people coming to his property and looking for these things that lurk around his property. Wisconsin is the state he lives in. He lives in northern Wisconsin. We've all heard Elkhorn, Wisconsin, Beast of Bray Road. That's southeast Wisconsin. If you look at a map, and he is northern Wisconsin. His family has had a farm in that area for almost 120 years. his great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather was one of the first kind of European settlers up there in that region. And, excuse me, he's got some land, but his family owns close to 400 acres of land up there. It's a dairy farm. They have a lot of just wooded areas. They have some ponds, and rather large ponds, and some rather deep ponds at that. So he is just kind of south of Cedar Rapids in Wisconsin. And so right around COVID time is when this all started to occur. His family has always talked about large, kind of hairy cryptids running through their property. Nothing's ever hurt their livestock. They found deer gutted and torn apart. His father believes that he had seen a Dogman, and his dad was talking about these things, years before YouTube, years before the internet. And their term for him was just werewolf, because that's, in the 60s, 70s, no one was saying Dogman. So it wasn't a new thing for his family to know these things are out there. And it wasn't a daily basis thing either. It was maybe once every 10 years someone would see something. Some of his friends, other farm friends and such, workers. So it wasn't an everyday occurrence. That's one of the key things to remember. Probably 6 months into restrictions and when things kind of got locked down in COVID, he started to notice that some of his livestock had these wounds on them. None dead, but some had some really deep lacerations and gouges taken out of their hindquarters, around their neck region. It almost looked like something was trying to stop them from running and couldn't. And he had started to, say, I wonder what the hell is going on. Maybe it's a mountain lion. We've never had any kind of attack on any of our livestock. Some of our cows have gotten sick and died. And we found them, predators or whatever scavenger like animals, coyotes, would find like a dead cow, and of course easy meal, but nothing like he was witnessing at this time. And so he decides that he's gonna start asking a few people, hey, have you had any of your cattle messed with or any kind of damage done to your livestock? And one of his friends who lives in the same county as he does. Actually, his property butts up to his, and almost the same kind of lineage. Great-great-grandfather. Families lived there for, 100 years. Just part of the way of life out there. And, there's not any kind of stores, Walmarts, or anything in the radius around there. So it's deep, guys. And he says, no, we have not had any of our livestock messed with. I haven't seen anything either. And meaning I haven't seen any kind of creature, any kind of Dogman, any kind of Bigfoot. The interesting thing was I had to mention Bigfoot because he referred to them as werewolves, what the old timers called werewolves. Oh, he's like, all right, I got to figure out what's going on because I've got about 6 of my cows that are, pretty badly injured. 1 or 2 I can take care of, but there's 3 or 4 of them that I've got to call a vet and have him come and, look at them and see, especially the ones in the neck region. So he does, and it kind of dies down. There's kind of any attacks on his livestock for about a month. And now we are almost in early fall. We are late summer, early fall of 2020. They go out, check on the cattle, and he's driving out to one of his fields that contains a couple of small ponds. Now, when I say small, I don't mean, just you're like in the middle of your city park. I mean, these are almost small lakes, essentially. And he's got 2 of them on his property, far enough away from his home and where his livestock are. But he's driving out that way because he had noticed that he was missing 3 cattle. And it looked like one of his fence had been messed with, but not cut with bolt cutters or wire cutters or anything. It looked like maybe the cattle had pushed on it, or quite possibly something or somebody had pulled the barbed wire off of the fence, and it just kind of, But he's never ever seen anything like this barbed wire, how it was not cut, but it was not together. It was almost like it had been ripped apart. And he starts to follow the tracks. So as he's driving out to this one pond region, he comes across one of the dead female cows out there, lying there. She's bloated, and it looks like there's not a lot of blood coming from the wounds she had. And she had some wounds on her neck region, and they almost appeared to be about the size of a nickel to a quarter through her neck. But there was 3 or 4 holes. And right there, that one bit of information piqued my interest a little more, because in the Christopher Whiteley case, the young man that was savagely torn apart in Lipin, Texas, he had a nickel to quarter shaped hole in his sternum. And a couple months later, a woman in Colorado who was savagely attacked by bear had almost the identical puncture wound in her sternum. So he's looking and he's, trying to figure out what the hell could do that. It's obvious that they're not teeth marks. And he's like, there's not a lot of blood. You'd think if that cow, the size of the cow, if it bled out right there, or even walking there would be a blood trail. And regardless of the greenness in the grass, that blood would be noticeable. But there wasn't. There was not. There was some dried blood around the wounds, but it was almost like it was drained. He contacts one of his workers and says, hey, I just found one of the cattle. We're going to need to pick her up. Come out, grab the horse trailer and come out, and we'll figure out a way of putting her up here. I got to go find the other two. And he starts to head a little more in the direction of the two ponds that are out there. And he sees another one of his cows, a male cow, and it was splayed out. It wasn't laying on its side like the female cow with the puncture wounds in its neck. This was kind of laid open. Its sternum was just ripped. It looked like something had ripped its chest plate right open. Not like a bone saw or any kind of saw did it. Just a physical all the way to its gut. And he noticed that it was missing its genitalia. And at this point now, there's two things that are piquing my interest. One, the puncture wounds and the size of them. And two, and I stopped him for a second. I said, listen, I'm not being rude, but this sounds like a cattle mutilation. Kind of what happened in the 80s with the UFO black helicopter. Are we going in that direction? Because he did not tell me any of his experience in the email. He just said, I have some very damning experiences that I need to share. I can't share them with anyone else. I can share them with other people, but I don't want to. So I'm like, are we getting to that? And he's like, no. It does seem like it, but no. And he's never seen anything like what he saw with that cow. It was like a 2-year-old male bull. And it had its testicles before it was found, and now it obviously doesn't. And its male member was also kind of just like, whatever did this just ripped its chest plate and just ripped. It was a terrible, ferocious attack. Intestines and other things were kind of just strewn, and a lot of blood. A lot of blood was on this location. So he now calls the same guy that he called and said, listen, don't scratch coming out here, but grab a couple of other guys with you and some that can stomach what they're about to see. I found a second cow, and it's fairly torn apart. Make sure you have a rifle with you. And his employee is kind of like, you know, all right, do you have a rifle in your truck? And I do have my rifle with me. Get a 30-30 lever action with him. And he said, just gave him kind of the coordinates to where this other cow was going to be from the first one, and said, you know, I got one more missing. I'm going to leave my truck parked where it is now, and I'm going to kind of walk in to see if I can locate this other one. And he said, all right, we're heading out. We should be there in about 25-30 minutes. It's an old, you know, to get out where he is, there's dirt roads that his family created, you know, highway roads. Actually, the road that he lives on, the road his farm is on, is a macadammed road, but it's named after his family. It's actually named after his grandfather. And so he starts walking, and he's walking out towards the first kind of pond area, and he can make out the first pond, and he's kind of just scanning the horizon, looking for any kind of large mass in the distance along the grass. He gets past the first pond, and he's standing, and he can see the second, and he's kind of in between them, and he squints off in the distance, and he sees this second bull, the third cow that's missing, but it's on all fours, and he at this point is like, okay, 1 out of 3, all right. And he starts walking towards the cow. He gets about 200 yards away, and he sees the cow, and he notices that it's kind of wobbling. It's kind of standing on all four, and it's wobbling back and forth, kind of like a sway. And he's looking, and he stops because he gets this just real bad smell. You know, we're in late August at this time, early September. The wind is kind of just, you know, it's a easy wind, but he catches it, and he's like, what in the hell? And he said it's worse than, you know, a gutter in the barn. It's this very odd kind of metallic-y stench, almost like a copper blood, kind of a urine, a real mixture of just not good smells. And he's kind of really put off, and he's like, I should probably wait until I get, you know, until these other guys are here at least. Because this is weird, you know. He's already found 2 of his cows, one being completely mutilated, the other being dead and drained of blood. And to be honest, that's what is starting to pop into his head is something like these cattle mutilations from the 1980s going on right now. As he's kind of scanning the area and watching the cow just drops. Done. And he sees what he thinks at first is a person kind of standing there where the cow was, blocking his point of view from this person that he thinks is there. And he yells out, "Hey," with some explicit language, "this is private property. Did you kill my cows? Are you the, person that's killing my cows?" And it's not saying anything. He can't really make out a lot of detail. As now he's looking at it more, he's like, is this a naked crackhead? What the hell what am I looking at? Because he doesn't see like blue jeans and a flannel or blue jeans and a t-shirt. He just sees this kind of peach colored thing standing there. And he said, "Hold on, I'll be right there. I'm waiting for somebody. I got to talk to you, though." He's just yelling whatever and he notices that this thing, as he's watching it, it drops down to kind of all fours. He said, and when it did, its front limbs were a lot longer than its legs, because it kind of stood at like an angle like that. So its hips would be here, its shoulders are right here. And he's like, "What the hell?" And he sees it coming at him now. It's galloping, or whatever you want to call it. He said it didn't look like how a dog would run, how a bear would run. It was kind of leaping. And he's now like, holy shit. What is this coming at me? And he raises his gun. At this point, it's about 75 yards from him. And he, in quick succession, shoots 2 rounds. The thing stops and tries to stand up and lets out this kind of high-pitched, kind of shrill, not like a growl, not like a howl, but this almost like it was communicating, like help, but it didn't say help. So don't, when I said that, that's not, but it was, if it had its own language, it would be something like that. When like, so you're out there, something bad happens to you, you got a buddy that's in the distance, hey, and it kind of gets back down, starts to get back down, and as it's going down and he thinks it's going to run again, he takes one final shot and hits it kind of in the head neck area, and it just blew a chunk of its neck out. He had taken photos of the first 2 cows, and he's starting to walk up, and he looks down at this thing, and he's kind of shocked at what he's looking at. It very much so is a crawler, but very human-like, with very Caucasian human-like, very light-skinned, no hair, and it had these just very strange kind of bulbous eyes, with no pupils or anything. They were open still, but they were, what he could see is it seemed black. And he walks over to his other bull that had just been standing there, and it was definitely dead for at least a day. What he saw, where this thing was standing behind that cow, what he saw was it was kind of ripping the flesh off. And he noticed puncture wounds in its neck again. Very, very little blood. There was no blood on this creature's claws or its body. About 20 minutes go by and he hears his other work truck coming up through, and he can hear the trailer. If you're ever familiar with an old kind of horse trailer, there's a kind of there's a door in the middle to keep the horses separate, and it's got this kind of weird kind of bolt lock thing. But the metal jingles, and it's real loud, especially in a pasture setting. He turns after looking at the cow, and he had taken a picture of that thing. He took a picture of the cow again. He turns and starts walking towards his truck that's coming towards him. The guy stops the truck and gets out of the truck, and they start talking. And he said, listen, what I'm going to show you now is going to absolutely blow your mind away. To be honest, I'm a little nervous because it resembles a human. Did I just shoot a human? I don't believe I did, but I could be in big trouble with the right person, thinking this was some sort of human. They get the other cow, put it in the thing, and now they're standing there figuring out, what are we going to do with this thing? Should we just bury it with the cows? These cows are damaged good. They can't be sold at auction. They're just dead. So let's bury them. We'll bury this thing, and no one will be the wiser. So they load everything in the truck, and that's exactly what they do. They dig a hole with their Kubota. They bury the cows and the crawler. He's like, I got pictures of this thing. We can't say anything, about this. And he knows his workers. He's employed them for, years. They have a good life working for him. They have a trailer on his property that he's they don't pay rent. They live in a fairly new trailer. Each employee, he's got about 5 employees with him. But each employee that has been with him for a long period of time has their own kind of truck that he bought. His family's well off. Not super uber rich. They're driving, 2010 Dodge Rams. They all don't have a 2023, Ford F-350, but they all have a decent vehicle. So he trusts the few men that were, on that scene. And they bury everything. And the next day goes by smooth. They notice that there's no tears in the thing. But they get a weird kind of feeling around the inner part of the farm, close to his house, close to the trailers that his employees live at. And later on in the afternoon, about the second or third day, one of his employees' daughter, the one guy that's married and has children that live on the land, and he considers, this guy's kids his niece and nephew, comes running to the farm, freaked out. Her father's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's right there, the owner. And she said, I was sitting on the back kind of decking area of our house, Daddy, and I saw this man kind of standing off in the distance looking at me. And they've never had, where he lives, there's no people, some random Joe is going to walk onto his property and look at, this girl sitting on the back deck tanning herself, and that never happens. So this is where shit starts to get real for him. They jump in his truck and he's like, get in my truck. You're coming with me since it's your kid. Let's go check this out. And they get back to the trailer. And I shouldn't even say trailer because he said they're double wides. He said they're beautiful. And they don't pay rent, but they're very loyal to him. And they look around and they look off in the distance where the little girl said she's seen this thing. And there's like 4 of these crawler things standing in the horizon, and they can make it out. And they're like, what the hell is that? And he said, get inside to the guy's daughter. And they proceed to say, hey, that's a couple of more of them things that's in that ditch over there. What should we do? Go get one of your rifles. And his employee comes back out and they're just watching it. These things aren't moving. They're not moving at all. He scopes one in, not the owner, but his employee scopes one in and says, those are the same goddarn things that we just buried, but there are 4 of these things. One is standing bipedal. The other 3 are kind of crouched down like that first one. Ass down here, so the hips are right here and the shoulders are right here, like a hyena, watching them. And he said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to take a shot? I'll take a shot if you want me to. I actually want to because it just scared the shit out of my daughter. He said, don't take a shot. I got an idea. I want to do this the right way. But whatever my idea is, do not ever talk about those 3 cattle and what we buried that day. Don't take a shot. Just because these things now have kind of dispersed. And everything's good for a couple of days again. It gets back to normal. No kind of eerie feeling of being watched. Nothing like that. And the next morning he wakes up. And how he has some of his cattle, the ones that are going to be impregnated, the ones that have milking calves still are in this kind of fenced area away from the open fenced area, the larger fence, and they can actually go into this one part of the barn to stay warm, water, hay, and food. And he goes and checks, and there was 8 of his cattle, 8 mothers, and about 3 or 4 baby calves just savagely torn apart in this small extension of his barn. He radios to the guy and says, "Hey, you need to get the hell over here now, but I think we bit more than we could chew off. Here, come check this out." So at this point, he now knows, hey, we got to call the sheriff's department, animal control, and probably Fish and Game, because this is, wild animal attack. Something wild attacked my livestock. He contacts the sheriff. The sheriffs send out Fish and Game, and what this guy sees when he goes in there is just a savage attack. And so the Fish and Game kind of says, all right, we'll handle this. Do you know possibly what it may be? And he said, no, I honestly don't. But I don't think we'd have wolves out here, and I don't think they're big enough to take down and do what this was done in one night. And he said, yeah, you're absolutely right. He leaves. Come to find out, the guy with the daughter had stopped and talked to the Fish and Game guy and didn't tell him about the one that he shot and they buried, but told him about the 4 human-like men creatures that were on all 4s, one bipedal, and their stance really was similar to that of a hyena. And he, of course, the owner didn't know this until later that day. And he said, all right, great, thank you. We'll be back to handle this. We'll come back and, if we have to hunt these, wolves or bear or whatever this was, we'll take care of it. And one of these officers, Fish and Game, come out looking for tracks. They don't find any wolf tracks. They don't find any mountain lion tracks. They don't find any bear tracks. And he brings up the fact of, what did you see the other day? And that's how he finds out. So he kind of tells him, I don't know if you're going to believe this, but this is what we saw. And I think this is what killed all these cattle right here. He's up to 21 cows being killed. The first 3, the 18. Okay. Couple days go by. No incidents. No nothing. And the Fish and Game come in. The officer and a sheriff's deputy pull in. And they start talking about things and how we're going to do this and what you need to do. Why don't you take your family out of here for a day or two until we can hunt these things out, because we're probably going to have to hunt around your residential area along with your fields. And, give your employees who don't live on the property some time off. The ones that do, have them go to family, have them go with you, who knows. Just, you're going to have to leave so we can take care of this, because we don't want to have any stray bullets by accident going through, a double wide or your home and injuring family members. So they make the conscious decision to, all right, let's take off for a couple of days. We'll go to a hotel. It'll give us time to just get away. And they do. 2 days later, they're pulling in. And of course, the animal control said, we'll call you when we've got this under wraps. So as they're pulling in, no call. A couple days later, he sees a 18-wheeler parked on the outskirts of the road that's named for his grandfather. Door is down, there's a ramp, and there's 2 or 3 what appeared to be military soldiers around this. He pulls into more of his property and he sees the sheriff deputy, but he sees another 3, maybe 4 men with long rifles, wearing not camouflage, but black cargo kind of shorts. And they proceed to say, hey, we're going to hunt these things down. We haven't had any luck. Are you sure you want your family to be here? We've got to, if something bad does happen, we don't want, this on us. So sign these paperwork. Sign this paper stating that you're giving us permission to hunt your land for whatever did this damage to your farm, your livestock. But also protecting everyone's ass. And after the fact, he realizes he signed a non-disclosure. There was a non-disclosure forms and paperwork kind of shuffled in the mix. They get out. They go to their double wide. He goes into his home with his wife. And they start talking about it a little bit. About an hour goes by. And the 2 employees that don't have kids that live on the land and their own modular or mobile home, whatever, double wide, they come in for dinner at the house. And as the men are sitting back after dinner talking about the tractor trailer that's just right there on my property in that road, but that road is where his land is. It's, divided into 2 counties. But it's essentially on his property. That road is his property, even though it's paved and maintained by the highway department. Not highway, but, the plow department and stuff and whatever. It's still all his property. So they're shooting the shit. And all of a sudden they hear this just deep, long howl out in the distance. And all of them kind of look at each other and they're like, that's not a wolf. Whatever that thing was, the volume of it and the fear that it was just this just roar And he said, listen, let's all bunk at my house tonight. He absolutely trusts his employees that live on the land. So he said, I'd feel terrible if something happened to any of you. We just had dinner. Your family is my family. My family is yours. We'll protect each other. We don't know what these guys are up to, but whatever the hell that was. No anything after that night of that one howl through that night. The next morning, they wake up. He wakes up. It's 5 a.m. Sun's coming up. He's used to it. Something he's done his entire life. So he looks out. And he looks over towards where the truck is. And he kind of turns this, like, what the hell? He sees about 5 soldiers dressed in black, long rifles. Few of them are carrying something, but he's looking and he sees these what look like body bags. They're a dark green colored body bag. And he looks and goes up into his second floor where he can look out better. He grabs his pair of binoculars and he looks out and he sees 6 body bags lined up. And he goes, what the hell? What just happened? And as he's looking, now mind you, it's only, sun's just coming up. So it's 5:30 max now. What he sees is this huge dog come out from the opposite side of where his farm sits here. The road where the tractor trailer parked is right here. That property is his beyond that, and all the rest is his property as well. As he's looking through the binoculars, what he sees is essentially either what Victor called werewolves, no tail, come walking around the trailer towards the body bags. But he's looking and he's like, what the hell is in that thing's mouth, and what the fuck is that thing? And he sees that it's one of those, another crawler. Now there's a total of 7, and there's a 7 to 8 foot tall werewolf on his property. And he's shocked. This is something that he was not supposed to see. The time, is way too early for most people to be moving around, but he can't do any work until a certain hour because of the paperwork he filled out. So he's not going to the barn and, take care of haying everything, feeding everything, checking waters and stuff out in the fields. Because now it's getting to that time where, you'd put a salt lick out for your cattle and stuff. So he can't do anything. But what he sees is this werewolf creature come out, and it stands up after it drops the crawler and looks around. He's watching it, and it looked like one of the men with the long rifle was saying something to it. And seconds later, this thing's dragging the bodies of these crawlers into the back of his, or not into the back of that tractor trailer that's parked on his road in front of his home. couple of the soldiers walk in up the ramp. That werewolf-like creature walks up the ramp, and it looks around again, and he's, you can see what it's doing. It's smelling the air. They close the door. Truck pulls out of there. And he's kind of shocked at what he just witnessed. Hour and a half, around 8:30 in the morning. The Fish and Game come and say, I guess according to the federal, they were called federal fish and game hunters. There were a total of 7 wolves shot on your property, and that's what had caused all that damage. Remember, they don't know. He knows what is out there because he had already shot one and buried it. And he shakes his head and, all right, thank you. We won't have any more problems. If you do, call me. Here's my card. And we'll take care of it all. So day goes by, or not day, but morning happens, and he tells the one employee that he's been close friends with for the longest time, the one with the child, and he's like, what the hell? What do you mean? It just came and gone? And you saw a werewolf? If you didn't kill that thing, and I didn't help you bury it, I wouldn't believe a goddamn thing you're telling me. But that's what happened. Okay. So, park ranger, Fish and Game come up, say, hey, it's all done, da-da-da. Here's your copy of the paperwork you filled out yesterday, and have a good day. You won't have any more issues. If you do, da-da-da. So he looks through and he realizes that there's a non-disclosure in that pile of paperwork that he was handed. His employee had to sign it. At 2021, I didn't see anything again. 2022, nothing. Mid-spring of 2023 is where he gets up, he's doing his chores, getting everything ready, looks out in the distance, just looking, it's been 2.5 years. And he sees an identical match of what he saw dragging those crawlers into that truck. Dogman, werewolf, no tail. So werewolf, according to Victor. It catches his eye too, from a distance. And the creature, Dogman werewolf, looks at him and he said, I don't expect anyone to believe what I just shared or what I'm going to tell you right now. But he said, I was close enough to where I could see, what it was doing, but not close enough to, and it put its finger on its lips and looked at him. Like, don't say anything ever. Put its hand down, dropped to all fours, and took off. And ever since then, he's never had any kind of livestock attacks. He's never seen any more of those crawlers, and he's never seen that werewolf-like creature. One man's experience with the government and these creatures, and he goes and starts talking to his employee, and he's like, well, shit. I got those pictures that I downloaded into my laptop. Let's share these photos and stuff with, whoever we can. Maybe we can get a book deal out of this. And then they start watching YouTube and start realizing there's people like myself, people like Steve from How to Hunt, James, Dark Waters, people that care about what's going on out there. They talk about this, So he is living in fear still to this day, but not because of the crawlers, not because of the werewolf, but because of the government and what they are capable of doing. And that is that man's experience, and he hopes he never has to ever experience anything like that again.
And there you have it, folks. This early morning, middle of the night bonus. I do hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.